Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the history classes. So we were dealing with world history from last day, and the last day we have finished American Revolution. Today we'll be talking about the Enlightenment. Okay, Age of Enlightenment is also called the Age of Reason. So today we'll be discussing about that. So, as usual, before getting into, I would request everybody to just go through the UPSC questions which I'll be giving in the next slide. And in that perspective, you have to start analyzing the topic. Okay. So we'll start. Age of Enlightenment is also called the Age of Reason. Okay. So previous year's UPSC questions, if we are looking at, we can see that I have noted here 3 questions. By the 3 questions, you will know how important the Enlightenment part is and how you have to study this. Okay. So explain I told you, again, direct questions are coming from world history. Explain the major ideas of Enlightenment. Discuss the contribution of Rousseau in Enlightenment. Okay. That means they are quoting famous thinkers and they are asking. Okay. Normally they quote around 2-3 thinkers. We are studying about 4 thinkers for a safer side. And yeah. The Enlightenment represented alternative approaches to modernity, alternative habits of mind and heart, of conscience and sensibility. Discuss. That's another question. And third one is the despotic rulers of Europe were influenced by the philosophy of Enlightenment and began to follow a benevolent policy towards their subject, critically examined. Okay, these are type of questions being asked from this part. So the age of Enlightenment or the age of reason is very much important with respect to thinkers, and we should be knowing why this is important, because this have marked the changes. All revolutions, all changes started coming after Enlightenment. Okay, I've told you some people were of the mindset that whatever is there, we need a change, or they have challenged whatever is there. So that is why the age of scholars and philosophers and the age of Enlightenment has come. Okay. So first we'll see world before 18th century, how it was. Okay, world before 18th century. Understanding of the events before 18th century is important to understand the later developments. If you want to understand the later developments, which we are going to study today, we will talk about church, how partial the activities of church were, how authoritative church was, and we'll also talk about feudalism, and then we'll move towards few thinkers, and we'll talk about enlightenment. This is what our topic of discussion today. So first one, we'll try to understand before all these things what was happening. Okay, the dawn of 18th century was characterized by end of feudalism in England. Feudalism ended much later in rest of the Europe, but feudalism, I'll tell you what is feudalism in the coming slides. Feudalism as a system got end in England first, and then slowly later on it started removing from rest of Europe. Okay, so end of feudalism was there. Increase in the number of towns and cities. What is this is showing? This is showing urbanization is happening. Okay, urbanization happens means increase of trade is there. Okay, if urbanization and towns and cities are increasing means something is happening good with the trade side. Okay, during when church was there, during feudalist setup was there, this trade was not there, because they produce only for their subsistence. Okay, whatever they want of surplus production was not at all in the thought. Okay, now things have been changing. Okay, transition to a money based economy from land based economy of feudalism. Okay, feudalism concept, everything was land based. You will see that is shifted towards a money based economy. Rise of merchant classes and absolute monarch. Decline in power of Catholic Church. Mercantile capitalism. This we have discussed yesterday. What is mercantile capitalism? Mercantile capitalism means the balance of trade or the BOT should be in favor of respective country. For example, mercantile capitalism was followed by Britain. That means whichever country Britain is doing trade with, whichever area they are colonizing, all balance of trade should be in their favor. And normally that time it used to be in terms of gold, because all exchange was happening in terms of gold. So Britain used to amalgamate lot of gold and have positive balance of trade towards them. Okay, and British-French rivalry. Yesterday we spoke enough about British-French rivalry. So that was at its zenith. That means peak. It was at its peak. So all these things were the conditions before 18th century. Feudalism slowly ended. Towns started emerging. Land-based economy of feudalism Land-based economy of feudalism is moved to money-based economy. Rise of merchant classes and absolute monarch happened. Decline in power of church happening. Mercantile capitalism. Mercantile capitalism means BOT, or balance of trade in favor of Britain or whichever country which is following the policy of mercantile capitalism. And British-French rivalry was at zenith. Okay, this was the situation. Now you have to think from this perspective. Okay. Now, we have spoken about feudalism. We have first point, we said that end of feudalism in England. So little bit we'll see what is feudalism, because in history, in different part, we were hearing about feudalism and feudalist, all these concepts. So little we'll try to understand what is feudalism, what are the features of feudalism and how it ended everything, what was the structure. Then we'll go into the topic of enlightenment. Okay. So feudalism as a concept, the word feud comes, which means conditional ownership of production, ownership of land. Okay, you should be having conditional ownership of land. That means permanent ownership is not there. Permanent ownership. Okay, permanent ownership is not there. Okay, conditional ownership of land. Okay, permanent ownership which does not exist. Feudalism was a new social and economic system that came to prevail in Europe. Please mute. Everybody is requested to mute. Okay. We are talking about feudalism. Okay, in feudalism, the word feud comes from the word feud. Feudalism comes from the word feud. Feud, which means conditional ownership of land. What do you mean by conditional ownership of land? You have access to land, or you have ownership of land with respect to certain conditions. Your ownership on the land or a piece of land is not permanent. Okay, if your production is not submitting good, whatever conditions you'll see, then ownership will not be there for you. Okay, that is called that was a system in feudalism. Feudalism was a new social and economic system that came into prevail in Europe. Okay, where it was there? It was in Europe. Under this, society was divided into rigid classes. Rigid classes means tight classes. Okay, society was divided into different. That means mobility is not possible. Movement from one class to another is not possible. It was like tight construction. Politically, there was no central authority, and the economy was based in villages. This is an important point. You have to always think about when you're hearing about feudalism, connect with this point. Politically, there was no central authority. That is why feudalism emerged itself. Okay, I will see that in coming slides. Politically, that means even though king was there, there is no centralization was not there. Feudalism was a highly decentralized setup. Okay, decentralized setup. Centralized. Okay. Feudalism was a highly decentralized setup. So politically, there was no central authority. Even though king was there, king doesn't have much role to play with respect to land and all these things. And the economy was based in villages. And villages were self-sufficient and villages were autonomous. Village autonomy was there. That means they were self-sufficient and produced little surplus for trade. Okay, trade was not much developed during that time. Hence, it was marked by a decline in trade as well as towns. Okay, I told you if trade is flourishing only, we can go through the concept of towns, cities, everything. It will move towards urbanization. If trade is not flourishing, then that is not possible. Okay, this is about feudalism. So feudalism, the word originated from the feud, which means conditional ownership of land. Why feudalism emerged, main thing is that politically there was no central authority. It was a highly decentralized system and the economy was based upon villages. Villages were very highly self-sufficient and produced little surplus for trade. Okay, it was marked by decline in trade because anyway surplus is not there. So they don't have much to trade. Only whatever they're producing is enough for themselves to consume. Okay, and because of that, there's a decline in trade as well as towns. Okay, now we'll try to understand why feudalism developed. Okay, why feudalism developed. So feudalism developed due to lack of single central political authority. We just discussed now. There's centralized tendency was not there. Feudalism as a concept was highly decentralized. Okay, so feudalism developed due to lack of a single central political authority. Europe had disintegrated into many small and big kingdoms. Okay, it got divided into many levels like this. Okay, and it was each level also we had many divisions like this. Okay, so it was divided into disintegrated into many small and big kingdoms. In such a system, the local lords become more powerful than the king and controlled the affairs of society. Okay, who controlled everything? The local lords were very much powerful than the king. Okay, so what are we talking? We are talking about feudalism. We have said that why feudalism occurred, because centralized political system was not there. Okay, what was there was decentralized, small and big kingdoms were there, and king had a very limited role, or king was not much powerful because the local lords were very much powerful and they controlled the social affairs, societal affairs. Okay, this is what we are talking about, feudalism. So this is the concept. Now we'll try to understand what the setup is all about. Okay, this is the pyramid showing feudal system. Okay, so the last layer is peasants. Okay, we'll start with peasants. Okay, peasants, above peasants, lords. I told you these lords were powerful because local control was with them. Local control and power is with these people. Okay, these lords. Okay, then above them they had tenants in chiefs, and the last is king. Okay, all power were concentrated in this layer because they used to rule these people and power was exerted on the lower strata by them. So this is the concept about feudalism. Always think 2-3 points only you have to remember. First thing about thinking that it was a highly decentralized system. King doesn't have much role, even though king was existing. System was there, monarchy was there, but it was not much centralized system. It was highly decentralized and local lords were very much powerful. Okay, this is a system with respect to feudal system. Now we'll see some future features of feudalism. Okay, what are different features of feudalism? Economy, village based, and villages were self-sufficient. This we have seen already. What does this mean? Okay, economy, what economy is based upon? Village based economy. I told you villages were self-sufficient and village autonomy was there. Okay, and local lords are powerful, so everything economy will be controlled from the village side, and they are not producing much surplus for trade, whatever for subsistence or whatever for the consumption only they are producing. Okay, in a land, peasants will be tilling and the landlord will be ruling, and whatever the peasants are producing or the serfs are producing, a part will be going to the landlord and peasants will be given for something for their subsistence. That's it. That was the end of the system. Okay, there was a decline in towns as well as trade during this period. We have seen this. Land, not money, was the main source of power. So what was source of power? Land was the main source of power. Money concept was not there. Okay, peasants worked on the land of the feudal lord, which was organized into many estates or manors. Okay, this manors word you keep it, because we will be using this word in the other classes. Okay, manors means estates meaning only. That means different sectors it was divided into, and these people used to work in different estates or manors. Whatever was produced in the manor was consumed by the lord and inhabitants, while very little was traded. This also I have told you. Okay, sometime before we were discussing. These are the features of feudalism. So what are the features of feudalism? It is economy was village based. Villages were self-sufficient. There was a decline in towns. Why? Because surplus was not there available for trade because of that. And land was the source of power, not money. Peasants worked on the land of the feudal lord, which was organized into many estates or manors. And whatever was produced on the manor was consumed by the lord and the inhabitants, while very little was traded. So the features of feudalism. So we are done with feudalism. This much only we have talked about feudalism. We have spoken what is feudalism, why feudalism developed, and we have seen the structure of feudalist society, and we have seen the features of feudalism. This is more than enough for your understanding. Actually, no question will come directly asking what is feudalism and what are its features. You may be in need to use these concepts in answers. Okay, so if you're not clear with this, you can't use wherever it fits. So this is the basic of world history or whatever history we study. You should be knowing these basic things. Okay, that is why I've taken these slides. Okay, now let's get into our topic, that is Age of Enlightenment. Okay, we are talking about Age of Enlightenment. Age of Enlightenment is also called Age of Reason. Okay, we can simply say the Enlightenment period or Age of Reason. So you can easily link. If it is also called Age of Reason, means what? Society was based upon reason, evidence, proof, scientific theories. Okay, scientific inventions, intellectual revolution, scientific revolution, all this commercial revolution, all these things were happening. So this was the Age of Enlightenment means. Okay, we'll see more into this. Yesterday we were talking about enlightenment in the introductory class. that we are talking, we said that enlightenment is more towards people who were started thinking differently, who were inspired by other scientific inventions. Okay, for example, Galileo came up with telescope, and germ theory of diseases was there. All these new inventions were coming, so scientific revolutions were coming. So number of this rational scientific explanations given for things during that time, supernatural explanations were existing society. Okay, we are going to talk about church. In that you will understand church was controlling. Okay, one more thing, why I'm talking about church, because we're talking about European society. I told you yesterday itself, world history more or less is towards European history. Nothing, you don't get a clue to link with India. That is okay. Okay, you have to think about European society. It was more into a Christianity culture. Religion followed was Christianity, even though they had Protestants and other differentiation. More or less, we can generalize by saying Christianity. So that is why church is having a lot of power. Okay, so a lot of rational scientific explanations given for things which prior to that given supernatural explanation. Church used to explain, okay, all these things are the features of God. God had decided this. So supernatural explanations were given. But what happened? Some people or some thinkers in this enlightenment period started thinking that no, there is nothing called supernatural. Everything have a reason behind it. Cause and effect we have to understand. We have to use our question of reasoning, understanding, logic, evidence, empiricism. All these concepts have to be used, and this is the right way for a change. People thought like that. Okay, and some groups of people came and they have influenced common people. Okay, initially they have faced many problems. We'll see also that one. But these were contradicting to the existing religious conservation beliefs. Okay, already religious conservative church have given some belief. Okay, all these things were contradicted to the church. Okay, actually all these things people felt, or the church felt, that it is indirectly challenging church. Church is saying something, suddenly one group in society emerging and talking that what our church is telling is not correct. We have other things to prove. Okay, so that conflict was there during Age of Enlightenment. Okay, now you get into the slide. In this slide, we are talking about, it was a cultural, you can put a comma here, it was a cultural movement of intellectuals in 18th century Europe that sought to mobilize the power of reason in order to reform society and advance knowledge. Okay, whatever we have discussed, only a small sentence about that. It's about the Age of Enlightenment. Now we'll try to understand more about this. In this Age of Enlightenment, actually the period is there from 1600 to 1700. Okay, literally it is called the 1600 1700 is called the century of enlightenment. Okay, so enlightened century is called 1600 to 1700. The Age of Enlightenment was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated the world for ideas in Europe during 17th and 18th century. Okay, the concept of Renaissance have come after Enlightenment. Okay, so there is Dark Ages, then Enlightenment come. Dark Ages is what we have to see all these things before. Dark Ages was there, then Enlightenment came. After Enlightenment, something came called Renaissance. Okay, in between Enlightenment and Renaissance, we have this intellectual revolution, scientific revolution, commercial revolution. All these revolutions came, all based upon scientific theories. Okay, some scientific cause and reason effect, people started finding out everything. I told you, telescope by Galileo, germ theory of diseases, Copernicus finding something. So all these things, people started tasting the scientific way. Because of that, all these revolutions came, and this period as a whole is known as Age of Renaissance. Okay, it is together. So the Age of Enlightenment was an intellectual. We have gone through this. This is about the introduction of Enlightenment. Let's see more about this. Its purpose was to reform society using reason. The basic thing is reason. Challenge ideas. I told you, what are existing, people wanted to challenge. Grounded in why they wanted to challenge, because it was based upon tradition and faith and advanced knowledge through the scientific method. They wanted to give more advanced knowledge through scientific method, and whatever is there, they are challenging. Simply, they are not going and challenging, because whatever is existing or grounded based upon tradition, faith, conservative belief, supernatural explanations, all these things people started challenging. Okay, now scientific revolutions means logic, reasoning, science, where all these things were discouraged by the church during that time. Who discouraged? Church, headed by the people, discouraged or during that time, during Enlightenment time. There was no education available in the disciplines of science and history. Science, There was nothing with respect to science and history. This is why the developments in science and technology that happened later are referred to as scientific revolution. Okay, this was the scientific revolution we are talking. Everything before was based upon what? It was based upon what? Based upon supernatural beliefs, explanations, tradition, faith, conservatism, etc. So slowly, when science has started coming in, we call the time as scientific revolution. Okay, now little we talk about church versus intellectual revolution. Church we'll study in detail. Okay, what is about the church, how church was powerful, everything we'll see. So I little will talk here because the church was more powerful. The Catholic Church was more powerful in society or the Europe during that time. So what church was done is that when scientific revolution started coming in, one section of people started leaning towards that side. Okay, it happens in every society. When something new, initially people will challenge. They will try to harness these people, punish these people, and they will derogatory terms they will use for these people. They will say, no, this is not right, that is not right. They'll use all these things. But slowly, if that they are bringing some fact, what will happen? Society will slowly start accepting. Okay, that happened. So a portion all went with church, and some group of people moved towards intellectual revolution. That means they started thinking about scientific things. Okay, they started believing that yes, whatever the people are telling is correct. The age of enlightenment or age of reason was coming to true that time. Okay, so legitimacy of church started decreasing. Okay, church legitimacy was decreasing, and people the intellectual revolution happened, and that time enlightened people, what they have done is that they have started questioning the divine theory of rule. Okay, what do you mean by divine theory of rule? Divine theory of rule is actually allocated by church to king. Who has given? Church has given to the king. That means church is on the top. Church is on the top, most in the pyramid. Okay, church is here. Church have given responsibility to king. Said that yes, you have the divine right to rule. Okay, so this was questioned by scientific people, scientific intellectuals who were coming in during that time. They started questioning. Okay, what do you mean by this divine theory of rule? Who have given you? They started asking a lot of questions. Okay, so this was a question asked during that time. Now let us understand about the church more. Then you will have a clear picture. Those who are hearing this concept for the first time, you will have an understanding what I'm talking about, the church, all these things, because we have a picture of church, what we are seeing in today's life. So the picture was not same during Europe, during medieval period. Okay, church was all powerful. Even the kingship, who used to allocate? Church used to allocate. Church used to select kings, saying that, okay, you have the divine right to theory, divine right to rule, so you can rule. So church was so much powerful. Okay, above the kingdom, church was there. Okay, in Middle Ages, that is 600 AD to 1500 AD, church evils took in the form of, okay, now we are quoting like church evils are there, or evils are there. Evils took the form of money for church post. Okay, whatever employment you are to get in relation with church, you have to pay money for that. All church used to exploit people in terms of employment. Okay, money for every ritual. Any ritual church is a part, you have to pay money. Money for removing sins. Okay, this was the most lenient part, because if somebody have done a wrong thing or some sin is committed by a person, what you have to do is that if you have money, you are saved. That was the concept there. Because if you have money, you can go and purchase letters of indulgences from the church. Okay, this letters means this is the letter to God, and church will tell that, okay, he have committed all this sin, please forgive him. Okay, so what will happen? This letter is given to God, and God will forgive. For that, you should have money. But so this was the concept of letters of indulgences, which upon their purchase removed the need for doing pilgrimage for removal of sins. So after that, you don't have to do or any pilgrimage for removal of sins, something, because it is not a type of confession. It is directly you are not doing anything. Okay, you are not going and confessing in front of anybody. If you have money, you can go and pay to church. Church will give letter of indulgences to God and convey that, okay, your work is done, you can go. That's it. Okay, Pope, nuns, bishops, etc. become corrupt and live like princes. Church owned and amassed huge property during that time. Okay, this was the role of church. Such powerful the church was. Evil effects of churches is some of this. Okay, we can continue. There was wide belief in witches, superstition, magic, all these things, black magic, everything. Witches is connected to black magic. Okay, superstition, magic, etc. Church became violent. I'll tell you how. Because it ordered burning of people who opposed its ideas about God, religion, even the physical phenomena. Okay, if anything happened with respect to rain, earth, they used to tell that earth is the center of solar system and sun is revolving around the sun, earth. Okay, this was told. And some people came and said that no, it is the other way. Sun is the center of solar system, earth is revolving around the sun. Then church will order that burn these people because they are going against God. Okay, this was the how violent the church was. Many scientific thinkers became the victims of church punishment when they proposed scientific theories which invalidated the principles like I told you, earth is flat or the whole universe revolves around the earth is what church used to tell, which the church propagated to glorify God. Okay, this is done. Many of them were burnt after being classified as witches or as possessed by evil spirits. So anybody who basically anybody who is coming in and questioning church, they'll be punished. So people were scared also with respect to that. And some philosophers, thinkers who come in and doing some churches, okay, doing some confessions, then they'll be given letter of indulgences. You will be given, if you have money, then you are saved. Okay, all these things were happening. Okay, now we'll talk about enlightened thinkers. Okay, we are going to talk about 4 thinkers today. Okay, and about these thinkers, you have chapters and chapters to study. Okay, that is not required for us in world history. What you can do in world history is that these 4 thinkers, minimum 2 or 3 is enough, but we are studying 4. 4 thinkers, minimum understanding is only required because you can use it when question asked or you can use it as an example. Okay, so little information is required, but you should be knowing they were during the time of this medieval period, or they were enlightened thinkers and they set certain theories that also you should be knowing. Okay, that is why we are taking this. So first one is John Locke. Okay, John Locke lived from 1632 to 1704, known as the father of liberalism. Okay, liberal concept was it because he have said that free to think. Liberalism in the concept of thinking I'm talking. Okay, not physical liberalism. You're free to think. Okay, and English philosopher and physician, and his policy was tabula rasa. Okay, what do you mean by tabula rasa? Tabula rasa means absence of predetermined goal. Okay, this will be new for you. Absence of predetermined goal. Okay, you don't have to know this. Somewhere, if you're seeing at least tabula rasa, relate with John Locke. That's it you have to do. Now, absence of predetermined goal means church used to tell some things. That means all determined. Everything, they used to convey everything so that church will be powerful. Okay, that means everything is predetermined. Okay, if you're purchasing letter of indulgences, you will be sin-free. You don't have to do pilgrimage. You don't have to do anything. If you don't have money, you have to accept punishment. Okay, that was given. So that means everything is predetermined. John Locke came in and said that, no, there is tabula rasa, or the concept of absence of predetermined goal is there. You may have to think more. You may have to act in different ways. You may have to do scientific experiments so that you will come to an answer. Okay. And he opposed the theory of divine right to kings. He said that church can't, who is church to give this divine right to kings? That is, he opposed this concept of divine right to things. What is divine right of kings? That means church will allocate certain kings or monarchy, saying that God has selected you to rule this country. Okay, that was the divine right. God have selected godly right. Okay, or you are a part of God. You are blessed by God. All these concepts church used to tell. Okay, next is natural rights of life and freedom. Okay, what John Locke actually used to say is that, okay, what John Locke actually used to say is that man was free in the state of nature. Okay, that means before all this feudal setup, before all this societal arranged come in, man was free in nature. We know that. We have studied about all this Paleolithic and all those eras. Man was free in nature. They were not tied up to anything. They were very happy. They were very peaceful, and they could explore their potential. Okay, all these things used to happen. Slowly the concept of society has come, state has come. Okay, we are more talking towards political setup now. The concept of state is come. why the concept of state is come? According to John Locke, he says that the reason why the state was devised is an institution to protect the life, liberty, and property of individuals. Okay, what all things they want to protect? Life, liberty, property. Actually, these three things have to be protected for individuals. Individuals wanted their life, liberty, and property to be protected. So because of that, they made an institution called state. This have given rise to something called state. It was what John Locke have said. Okay, what he has said, the reason why the state was devised is of an institution was to protect the life, liberty, and property of individuals. Certain individual man was very free in nature initially. Slowly, when they started becoming society, they started living together. They started attached to lands, cultivation, agriculture, everything started. They were in a need for the protection because they need to protect them from other people, invaders, all these things all these things started coming in. So they wanted any institution so that they'll protect all these things. So that is why the arousal of state happened is what John Locke says. Okay, Locke also emphasized that humans were born with this pre-existing natural rights. Already humans have pre-existing natural rights. That is why he says that tabula rasa, or predetermined goal is not the people are free to think. Okay, father of liberalism, same meaning. He is people are mentally free to think. They have natural rights to think in the way they want. Okay, they themselves formed the state to protect the life, liberty, and property. And Locke also questioned the concept of divine right to rule of nobility or the king. It was questioned because this is about the John Locke. Okay, I'll talk. Finally, we'll revise again, but this much you have to remember about John Locke. Next, we'll talk about Rousseau. Okay, Rousseau's famous quote is that you can use this quote even for ethics. It is unfair that some people are rich while other people are poor. The rich should not enjoy special privileges. Okay, this was a famous quote given by Rousseau. Okay, so what Rousseau, okay, one more important thing with respect to Rousseau is that Napoleon, we'll be studying about Napoleon French Revolution. Napoleon said that if no Rousseau, no French Revolution. That means French Revolution is there because Rousseau was there. This was told by Napoleon. Even you can quote about this. You can quote this statement when you're writing about Rousseau, or you can talk about this when you're writing about French Revolution. Okay. So Napoleon said that if there is no Rousseau, no French Revolution. Okay, now we'll come to Rousseau's theory. Rousseau said that social contract theory needs to be inconsistent. Okay, what he has said is that a state, okay, we are talking about state in all thinkers are talking about state. We have seen John Locke, what he said about state. John Locke, what did he say? He said that people wanted to protect their life, liberty, and property. So some institution they want to set up like that society, state came. Okay, that is what John Locke had said. And Rousseau is telling that a state comes into existence by making a contract between people to take care of the welfare of the people. That means it's a social contract is made. That means contract, for what contract is made? Contract is made to take care of welfare of the people. Who have made the contract? Society together have made the contract. It is social contract. Okay, between people to take care of the welfare of the people. If the king or the ruler violate the contract, okay, of course, if I'm making a state, somebody with their ruling, if the monarchy, the king or the ruler violate the contract, subjects can overthrow the ruler of the state. They are free to overthrow. Okay, if he says that if state is not obeying the contract, okay, that means the king is not obeying the contract, current state can be overthrown and a new state comes into existence. This is what social contract theory. I'll say again, a state comes into existence by making a contract between people. Why contract is made? To take care of the welfare of the people. Society have made to a contract so that welfare of people is, that is why state is made. And if the current king or the ruler is not obeying the contract, then what we can do? People are very much free to overthrow the current ruler and reinstigate a new person. That is what social contract theory by Rousseau. Okay, very simple, nothing. When you're seeing social contract theory, only you'll be remembering in the entire thing. Okay, nothing much here. Then the third person we'll talk about is Voltaire. Okay, Voltaire, this is also a famous quote by him. Life is too short, time too valuable to spend it in telling what is useless. Okay, we can use in our day-to-day life also. Don't waste time for unvaluable things. Okay, for anyone, for anything. Okay, it is too short, too valuable to spend it for by telling what is useless or what to use for useless things or useless people. Okay, now Voltaire. Voltaire says that source of all evil in society, where who is that? Church is the source of all evil. Okay, we know why church, because what, land was owned by church, they collected land revenue, they formulated laws, forgive punishments by taking letter of indulgences. So everything was related to church. We have read enough, we know why church was the source of all the evil. Okay, so Voltaire said that church was the source of all the evil. So he said that we have to strip away all the powers of church, restrict only to religious affairs. That means whatever economic, whatever political powers church have, we have to strip away all these things and limit only to what? Religious powers. Okay, church should be given only religious powers is what Voltaire opined about the state and the king. Okay, very simple, nothing much. Then last one, we'll talk about Montesquieu. Very important theory in polity also. We'll talk about theory of separation of powers. Okay, political science optional, they have this thinker to study. So Montesquieu, theory of separation of powers. So what he have said is that actually the problem is not with the bureaucracy or the king or the absolute monarchy. He said that problem is where this problem is there in the concentration of powers. Who is having concentration of powers, that they are having the problem, or where there is more concentration of power, problem is there. Problem is where concentration of powers. He argued that the source of evil in Europe was the concentration of too much power in a single authority. Okay, he argued for separation of executive. So he said that we have to separate, make 3 different branches, for executive, for legislative, and for judiciary. Okay. Then only we can rule the state properly, or we can take the welfare of the people. It is what he opined. Okay, he argued for separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers, and there's a need to vest them in different authorities who could exercise a check on itself. Same like what are following in India, they will have a check on themselves. Okay, this is what happening. This is what is said by Montesquieu. So we'll talk about Montesquieu again. So Montesquieu came up with the theory of separation of powers. He says that problem is not with the bureaucracy. Problem is not with the absolute monarchy. Problem is not with the king. The main problem is what? Concentration of powers. Okay. He argued that sources of evil in European society was the concentration of too much power in a single authority. He argued for separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers, and the need to vest them in different authorities who could exercise a check on each other. This is what been opined by Montesquieu. Okay, this is what you have to study in Enlightenment. We'll have a quick recap on what we have discussed today. Actually, we have to talk only from Enlightenment. All this feudalism and all not much important. I just given you for your information. So Age of Enlightenment means simply the Enlightenment, or we can call as Age of Reason. Okay, it was a cultural movement, intellectuals in 18th century in Europe that sought to mobilize the power of reason in order to reform society and advance knowledge. This definition, you can keep it when you write the definition for Enlightenment. Okay, then Enlightenment period is there from 1600 to 1700. Literally, it is called a century of the enlightened. Okay, it is century of enlightened. Okay, the Age of Enlightenment was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated the world. Same meaning we are going through. And then the purpose was to reform society using reason, challenge ideas grounded in tradition and faith, and advance knowledge through the scientific method. Then we spoke about church. Church, we know what are the evils took place in the form of church. They used to collect money for everything, for employment, for ritual, for removing sins. And Pope, nuns, bishops, all these people have very corrupt and they live like princes. Because why? They were having the upper hand. They used to decide who is the king. Same thing. Church owned and amassed a huge property. According to the statistics, almost 1/3 property was owned by church in a country. Okay, that was there. There was a wide belief in witches, superstition, traditional, or the supernatural things were given importance. Church was violent because they ordered burning of people. Punishments were given by church. They burned people, classifying them as witches or as possessed by evil spirits. Then we are talking about enlightened thinkers. Enlightened thinkers were John Locke. Then we spoke about Rousseau. Then we spoke about Voltaire, and we spoke about Montesquieu. What John Locke have said that why state has come. State is come because to take care of life, liberty, and property of people. People were free in nature. They were very peaceful. They had potential to realize their own potential to the maximum level. They were free in all those ways. But when time goes on, what happened is that they wanted to protect their life, liberty and property. So they have united something called a state, and that was concept of John Locke. And what is Rousseau has a social contract theory is there. Individuals have making a union to take the welfare of the people. It is called state, the king or the ruler. If the ruler is not obeying the social contract, they can dismantle this process, whatever the system, and they can reinstigate new people. Okay. Then Voltaire said that source of all evils is what? It is then the church. Church we have seen enough. And Montesquieu have spoken about theory of separation of powers. He said that separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers have to be there, and they need to vest them in different authorities so that they exercise a check on each other. Okay, that is what Montesquieu have said. Okay, that's it. If you have any doubt, you can ask.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
Ma'am, under mercantile capitalism, you said
Yes.
that the balance of trade needed to be in Britain's favor. But
Yes.
ma'am, you didn't tell us what exactly is balance of trade. I'm not really sure about it.
Okay, yesterday we were talking balance of trade means export minus import. Okay, that means you have to export more. You should be having more profit. Simply, that is mean balance of trade. When you should not be a situation that you import more things and you give money. Then you are in a loser side. Okay, so balance of
ma'am,
yeah.
America needed to export more to Britain, right?
No, Britain would like to export more to America. They same like what they did to India. From India, what Britain have done, they have taken raw materials. They'll manufacture everything in England. They'll come and sell here. Okay, that means they are exporting more here. You export more things, you will have more. Same thing. What currently we are having more foreign exchange if you export. Correct. Same thing. They had gold during that time. So balance of trade is there in their favor. Actually, mercantile capitalism is a concept we can't link to only England. Any country which is following, now we can link that with China. China is having something, the same concept. They wanted to export more. They wanted to have more foreign exchange. Same thing.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I will share the video and the PDF in the group. Okay, thank you.